Hi everyone, this is Michael with PianoWithMichael.com and LearnPianoWeb.com. I'm getting ready to launch my online tutorial series to teach the basics of music and also perhaps how to increase neural activities in both the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Specifically the right hemisphere, since we are an 85 to 95% right-handed society, which means that effectively I think we're stimulating more areas of the left brain, which neurologically may accentuate into behavioral patterns that are more associated with left brain cognitive processes. Anyway, so most importantly, the concepts that I'm coming out with is not to replace teachers. In fact, I'm very adamant in instilling the importance of having a teacher, because with a teacher you can learn right on the spot. There's a positive feedback. The teacher can provide feedback, positive rewards, nourishment, and all the good stuff that is a good relationship between a teacher and a student. But also, I would say that I took a couple months of lessons when I was younger, and the teacher and I we weren't a good fit. But I know there's a lot of good teachers out there that are very compassionate, very understanding of their kids, and I think that would be the most important way to really nourish the growth of kids learning piano. Now, the reason why I specifically point to the piano and learning is because number one, you've got a full range of keys that represent the entire spectrum of, or at least a very large spectrum of the bass clef all the way down here and all the way up to the very top of the treble clef. So you get to learn the entire scope of notes and also multiple configurations of notes. Since you have 10 fingers, you can play 10 notes at once. But in traditional cases, a lot of people they can play an entire song with the accompaniment on the left hand and on the right hand with a melody. And again, I'm winging this, and this isn't how I'm going to do my lessons, but I wanted to get this out there. So I'm getting ready to launch my butterfly tutorial lessons, and it's at a level that I have with time and resources. I have a family and I also have a job, but I'm also sending this out to a lot of other people so that if they see and truly believe what I'm trying to do here, that maybe they can provide some kind of assistance, whether it be resources or whether it be guidance and stuff like that. But I think it's most important that we somehow instill the appreciation of music in our society at every level that we can. So yeah, granted, I've only had a couple months of lessons. I've kind of accelerated with my own kind of way of learning using YouTube and all these other ways of looking at music, but also listening to very complex music by Beethoven, Mozart, and Bach, and I think some of that has somewhat osmosisly transferred into my brain somehow. It's called the Mozart effect, and there's studies that prove it, and there's also studies that disprove it, but I'm a fervent believer in it, and I think listening to music of highly enlightened but very passionate people will excite neurons, excite a behavior or a psychological state within the person, and then if you can manifest that into hand-eye coordination with the left and right hand in a creative but also imaginary kind of way, you're going to stimulate more areas of the brain. And so that's kind of the approach that I'm going at. I know this may rub some traditional piano teachers the wrong way, but I would say to them that our society needs music more than ever now. I think with what's going on in the global system, the political system especially, is an accentuation of a lot of fears, a lot of anxiety, where people aren't able to see outside of the box. And so I think music and the creation of music, specifically on the piano, can help people look outside of the box and see and create different avenues. Now, a lot of people will see that, well, I'm just a UPS driver, I work for the company. Yes, that's true. However, it does allow me a lot of time to think. It allows me a lot of time to, listen to the music of Beethoven, Mozart, and Bach, and I would recommend the first and third movements of the piano concertos, which tend to be extremely lively, extremely passionate. And I think that somehow instilled a sense of complex thinking when it comes to learning piano. But again, also, there's so much research online about the benefits of listening to that kind of music and then also playing music on the piano. So again, if you can get your kids into music, specifically with a teacher that's a good fit, that's by far the best, in my research, is the best way to really get your children involved in music and really develop that area of the artistic mind, coupled with the fact that we live in a very logistical society. And I'm also in the belief that with automation, robotics, software, and a lot of behavioral patterns that are going to be easily repeated through the traditional or current technology, having the ability to abstractly think, philosophize, and basically generate new ideas and concepts while maintaining a logistical side with the left brain, accentuating that right brain will allow our children to hopefully grow in a manner that will allow them to compete with the onslaught of these repetitive behavioral patterns that are being assimilated by robotics and automation. So now, music, what I'm going to teach is for people specifically that don't have the time and resources to take lessons from a traditional teacher, but as long as you can learn the basics of music like I did when I took 2 months of lessons. I learned what where the C was, where the G was, what a quarter note was, what a half note was, and what the treble clef and the bass clef. And if I'm talking real fast, I apologize. I'm still a little nervous, still getting over the fact that I need to work on my presentation skills. But this is a rough draft, and this is going out to a couple of other people. So the basics of piano music, and this is where I started, and I learned basic songs like. And then I got into more complex songs after I started really loving the music of Beethoven, Bach, Mozart, and some of the other pieces. So this one uses more of the left hand in a coordinated manner, and I think that started developing more areas of my right brain. Also this one. Now, a lot of classical musicians will probably be aghast at the fact that I don't play that well when I play off key or slur the notes when it shouldn't be. And as much as I respect the master's music and the people that can play at that level, I'm never going to be at that. I don't have the mental capacity or the memory to remember such extreme volumes of complex music, which in itself is just extraordinary, amazing that we have these composers, enlightened composers, create such complex, amazing emotional pieces. And I don't know how we lost sight of that, but anyway, I don't come from the fact that people should be classical musicians. I understand there's complexity in it, but there's also extraordinary people that have awesome memories that can remember all that. But my philosophy is to learn the basics of music, to then play music on a regular basis, hopefully, but then to also create music. And I think the creation of music, especially if you use the left hand and the right hand in coordination in somewhat of a complex manner, will stimulate more areas of the brain that aren't being used in today's society. So in theory, I guess I would say that I'm more stimulating the cognitive processes or stimulating areas of the brain and not teaching music, but essentially using music as a way, especially on the piano, to increase stimulation in certain areas of the brain that I think is going to be beneficial for, especially for our kids. So once I started learning more complex pieces, I went on another movement, which was to increase my left hand dexterity. Now again, this comes back to my idea that we are a right-handed society, 85 to 95% right-handed society, and so maybe our left brains are more accentuated. So I had what some people would consider a cognitive awakening, or almost a dramatic, profound personality change within the last couple of years. And this last couple of years, I really wanted to accentuate my left hand dexterity, my finger patterns within finger patterns. And so every night for about half an hour a day, which still isn't a lot of time, but I essentially did all these different exercises that I hope to demonstrate and illustrate on my website in time. I think stimulated more areas of my right side of the brain, which then opened up an entirely new neural areas that gave me a different perspective of life that I didn't have before. Now, these exercises can be mundane and people, I don't necessarily like to do them, but one thing, and this might also rub some musicians and pianists the wrong way, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's something that works for me, and I think it's important for people to find whatever works for them. I took a tablet and watched videos of what inspired me to continue on. There's a lot of inspirational videos that you can watch. And these exercises, you don't have to necessarily be cognitively looking at it, but just different patterns. You can increase them in speed, and eventually you just, without thinking about it, you just create these patterns. So I've played those patterns before, or the arrangement of it, but what I typically do is I have, let's say, kind of a collection of finger movements that I've exercised, and so I can draw upon when I'm improvising and using the right side of the brain, or whatever part of the brain that's responsible for spontaneous conversational thought processes. And so, and the thing is, once I started exercising my left hand a little bit more frequently, a little more freely, without thinking about what I'm doing, but letting it create its own patterns with thoughts that I have in my head, I noticed that my improvisational skills, not just on piano, but also in conversation, increased dramatically. And my theory is that it's all language, but it's also the generation of ideas within a pattern, and language is a pattern. So is looking at the world. If you look at the world within certain social paradigms or certain constructs, it's all patterns. And so the significant difference that I see compared to some of my friends that are extraordinary, great pianists and classical musicians is that I really broke outside of the lines of not sitting there trying to stay within the constructs of a beat pattern, which I believe is important to learn music. But once you escape out of that and really delve into the creative aspect, I think it opens up new areas of the brain that might give insight into idea genesis, empathy, creativity, abstract reasoning, and a whole host of other ideas which resides on the right side of the brain. And so, anyway, like I said, learning music is obviously extremely important, and I think playing certain classical pieces by Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, Chopin tends to be a little more complex, and therefore tends to use the left hand a little more complexly, which then further facilitates more neural areas theoretically in the right side. But then if you use it in conjunction with each other with the two hands, then you're increasing the communication between both hemispheres of the brain. Now, if you can also sit there and improvise, at my level and my commitment of time to be able to play, I take a rather simplistic left-hand movement with it. Every now and then there's a couple of videos that I have that you'll see my left hand and right hand go on these extraordinary tangents, but when I'm nervous and I can't play as freely as I'd like, that's when I sit and use simple patterns and let my right hand kind of do whatever it wants. I'll call them literalists of music will be just don't watch that stuff. And my theory is you got to learn to play and just create music using the methodologies that I guess I'm trying to convey, which is left hand, right hand, spontaneous creation in its own sensibility, but connected together. And with that, I think also delving outside of the lines and not being so restricted will enhance certain areas of the brain and cognitive processes. But more importantly, for some people that just like to create, it's fun. And so I've noticed a big difference, and I prefer to just create things than learning songs. Although that's important, specifically at the very beginning, so you can get a strong understanding of the rudiments of music and the piano. But playing and creating and dancing in the mind and coordinating it with the left hand, right hand together, I think is an extraordinary benefit of, or provides an extraordinary benefit of cognitive process that I think will give people a certain amount of awareness around themselves and be able to adjust the reality while still maintaining a sense of reality and a sense of responsibility. But being able to sit down at the piano, spontaneously create on complex patterns, exercising that left hand. in front of a camera and I can really play, I call that sketching. And so I can sit there and just keep playing. And what I do is I think about my walks in nature. I think about, you know, beautiful things like flowers and butterflies and trees, and then I just play and spontaneously generate ideas, especially after I've exercised my left hand, which is extraordinary. After I start really exercising my left hand, I start, I guess, opening up these new or stimulating new areas of the brain that's responsible for spontaneous genesis of ideas and concepts. And so I think in my head and I play, and then I kind of remember, oh, I like that, I like this, and I like that, and I sketch it out. So if you look at my YouTube channel or my website, I composed a song for my daughter that I wrote years ago that I couldn't play, and then through exercises and then left-hand exercises I was able to play it. But the hardest thing for me at that time was I wanted to, I didn't know when to stop because I just could keep coming up with ideas on that theme. But it's close to what I wrote years ago, added with a little bit of what people call a cadenza, where you just kind of like spontaneously generate ideas within that construct or that song. But anyway, this video isn't my lesson, but it's a video that I wanted to put together for when I reach out to a couple people that might be able to help me out in a manner that can really move these things along. I'm getting ready to launch my butterfly concept series. I've got the whole outline kind of figured out. And again, I'm doing it at my own time, my own pace. However, if I just get some person interested, all that changes trajectory. And so I come at it somewhat cautiously, but knowing that things could accelerate rather quickly, or I'll just keep going at this pace. But most importantly, and this is for, a lot of this is maybe for a lot of my high school friends and people that knew me before, that just a clumsy speaking person, a shy person, and someone that didn't really have a lot of enthusiasm. But music has changed my life so dramatically and profoundly that there's just no way I wouldn't be able to sit there and talk about it and try to instill it in other parents to make sure that they get their kids involved in music. And if you find the right teacher, if you take them to a place that can make them feel comfortable and allow them to play what they want to play, because the number one important thing is to make sure that they continue to play. So when I was taking my lessons at first, I was doing all these exercises, which were important. But I think if you find the right teacher, your teacher can figure out your child and figure out what motivates them, figure out certain ways to motivate them, whether it's for incentive processes or whatnot. But then there are some people that just, that's it. They love to do it, and they'll do all the exercises, and then all of a sudden they become, concert pianists. But my whole idea is not to create concert pianists. My idea is to stimulate both the left and right hemispheres of the brain in the most profound way that you can through the love of music, but also to create music and to stimulate and exercise that left hand so that we stimulate more areas of the right brain. And so in a nutshell, that's kind of my approach of what I'm going at. I know a lot of people will sit there and go, he doesn't know how to play, he's playing the wrong tune, he's playing out of key, that doesn't matter. I'm not teaching music. What I'm teaching is exercising the brain through the creation and playing of music. So please like my Facebook pages, like my YouTube channels, visit my website on a regular basis. I will have stuff available for, or new content all the time. Number two, I will have, hopefully I'm working on some stuff here that I'll be able to give out free stuff, maybe a free backpack or free coffee mug or something with musical icons and inspirational ideas around music. And so shopping cart system. So if you do happen to choose to buy some stuff and support me through buying my products and stuff like that, I actually don't get all your information. I use a system through PayPal. And so PayPal actually stores all your credit card information, and PayPal is one of the most secure credit card processing companies out there. They've been around a long time. And so when you look at my system and you decide you want to buy a product, it goes into my shopping cart system, which is actually run by another third bit company called BigCommerce. It's a real big company, it's a reputable company, large companies use it. I just happen to put my face over it, so all the back end stuff is through the big companies, not someone like me, so you don't have to worry about, oh, is my information going to get hacked or not. I use very reputable companies, BigCommerce, but also PayPal. Now, on a side note, I do a lot of shopping online as well, and so one of the things I would highly recommend anyone who is going to buy stuff online and is worried about connected to their account. I went to the bank and got a what I call my internet shopping card, and I made sure that the amount was a very minimal amount. I won't tell you what it is, but it's an amount that if it gets hacked, I'm not going to be devastated by it. But it's a separate account that, you know, I can do my online purchases and stuff like that, and if it does get stolen, whatever, I can quickly shut it down, but I don't have too much exposure to my other stuff. And so I always recommend to people, you know, shopping online is a great way to, you know, it saves time, but it also is a great way to, getting a card, and you can talk to your bank, that has a very certain limit to it so that it doesn't get exposed to a wide range of different things. So anyway, like my stuff, like my Facebook page, and if there's anybody out there that understands my energy, understands where what I'd like to do with this, I'm all ears, and I'm hoping to roll out my Butterfly Series concert or concept here within the next couple of weeks, starting out with the very basics of what the notes are. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have a good day.